I've become pretty accustomed to this farming life ever since we built the Speedy Horse Ranch in the previous episode, and I would like to plant some more crops. As if all of this wasn't enough, I need more. Torino and I have been scouting out a location to do this in, and there just so happens to be a big old piece of grassland just to the side of my base, which is going to be pretty much perfect for it. Well, not yet exactly. There's still a fair amount of issues with this terrain. There's holes, lots of them, some very small, and some very big. And then just general ugliness in the terrain that needs fixing. And all of these flowers, they're lovely, very pretty to look at, but my goodness, are they going to be in the way. So, first things first, clean slate. That is much better. I can work with this. I don't think it could hurt to do a little bit of planning before we start building anything. The idea isn't just planting a bunch of crops, there's more to it than that. I'm going to build other things. If you managed to catch my latest video, there's a good chance you might know what's going on in this episode today. And if you didn't, well, I mentioned a dream build of mine. Here it is, very briefly. I'd love to create a giant farming area with multiple fields of different crops, a few farmhouses dotted around, cows grazing on grass, tractors working away, essentially creating a beautiful countryside landscape. One day I may tackle that build. Turns out today is that day. I just couldn't think about building anything else once I mentioned it. I am very excited to start building, but as I said, we should probably do a little bit of planning first, which simply consists of laying out where all of the fields are going to go, along with the buildings and the pathways to connect them all. Very basic, but at least it gives me an idea of where everything is going to be built. I'm realizing now that to all of you, this probably just looks like a bunch of random blocks placed all over the landscape, but to me, it makes perfect sense, so just trust me on this one, okay? So the first thing we're going to work on are the buildings. I need to make sure they're good in the spots that I've given them, because if I have to move anything, I don't want it to be them, of course. And as you can tell, the measurements for this are not exact in the slightest. I have gone ahead and gathered up all of the materials that we need for the buildings in these lovely colourful sugar boxes here, which, yes, as you can imagine, took a lot of time to get. These are full to the brim, but it's all good because it means everything is ready to go. And I think we're not going to do all of them at once. We'll maybe do a couple. I'm thinking the 2 farmhouses, so these sugar boxes as well as these over here. Two farmhouses later, and we have made a pretty good start. We've got the stone farmhouse, which is intended for the crop farmer. In theory, the people or person who is going to harvest all of the wheat and such will be living inside of here, and I gotta say, I love this build. It's one of my favorites that we're going to do today. But on the other side, we also have the wooden farmhouse, which is built for the animal farmers. They are going to be living inside of here. Of course, the couple of fields that we do have for the animals are going to be nearby, so they can all stay nice and close. So that is 2 buildings down. We're now going to make another 8. And they are going to be in the form of a village, all within the confines of these orange terracotta blocks. Yeah, it's not a big village, that's for sure. But it doesn't need to be big because, I mean, come on, look at these houses. They are so cute and cozy and adorable. Size doesn't even matter here. And yes, before you ask, they have been fully furnished. You know me, I'm not going to skimp out on the interiors. I can't say they're all super detailed. This one right here, it consists of a bed. Yeah, it's really tiny, this one. But they have all been done. Unlike the village, of course the village is not done. We need more than just the buildings, so that is my next task. To make this lovely place feel genuinely lived in. It really is amazing just how adding in a few details around a village like this can totally transform it. I've done nothing crazy here, this all was done in a matter of 30 minutes or so, but it just looks so much more homely. And of course, you know, pathways help too. I go on about this a lot, but really, they do just tie everything together so nicely. So we've got the village, as well as the 2 farmhouses, and we are not quite done with building the buildings, but I think we should work on something else for a bit. These cobblestone blocks are being replaced. I thought I'd just do a tester here surrounding the village with the wall design that we're going to be using, just to make sure I like it before I go ahead and do it for the rest of the area too. And I think it works. This broken down, old, dilapidated stone wall, it's got some big countryside vibes, that's for sure. Now we can take this wall design all the way along where we've placed down the cobblestone blocks. It's starting to come together, isn't it? You can almost envision all of the wheat and other crops in between all of the pathways. I am loving this. We are for sure gonna have to come back to here later in the video, because just look at this view when you take this corner. It's amazing, and it's not even close to being done. There's a tiny issue with our pathways here, and that is when we get to this point, there's a bit of an impasse between the both of them. I thought this ravine was a super cool bit of terrain, and I've always had it in my world and often I fly over it, so I didn't really want to get rid of it, so I thought maybe let's just build a bridge going across. And build a bridge I did, allowing for easy travel from one side of the ravine to the other. And then whilst I was at it, I thought I'd carry on with some more building and finish up all of the leaf borders to separate our fields, and I also constructed some shelters for our animals, 2 for the sheep that we're going to get, and then 1 bigger one for the cows, so they've got somewhere to go if the weather takes a turn for the worse. Just doing some final checks on the 2 animal fields to make sure there's no exit routes, and I don't believe there are, other than right by the house, but that's fine. We can just do something like this and it'll stop them getting out, and I can easily get in and out myself. So our cobblestone walls are high enough, there's no escaping there, same with all of our hedges that we've placed down, and for the actual terrain where I haven't got a man-made wall, I've just done this. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, it looks a little bit funny, but there's no real other way around it, otherwise the cows and sheep could just do that and escape. Thankfully, running and jumping isn't an option for them, but now we have to go and find said cows and sheep, and also watch out for that guy. He is looking awfully suspicious. Ready to eat my sheep by the looks of it. Aha, yes, okay, good. I knew there were sheep nearby. There's one. There any others around somewhere? Oh, there's one, trying to hide against the snow. Silly boy, you can't escape me. You are coming to live a life of luxury, honestly, compared to some other Minecraft animals. You've got it very good. Just mind your step, please. There's a bit of a drop-off on the other side. You too, mister. You're coming as well. And cows, look at that. Well, stop right there, sheepies. We are bringing the cow back too. Is there another one? I don't think so. How awfully inconvenient. Well, good news, cow. I found your friends. Hopefully they were looking to be found. Which one of you lucky ducks, or lucky cows, I should say, wants to come with me? You. Well volunteered. After a quick trip back home, followed by a little bit of breeding, we now have 2 lovely families of sheep and cows who I think are really enjoying their new home. With the animals in place, now we can start planting the crops. So in total, we have laid out 16 fields, and I would quite like to use all 4 crop types. 3 of them will be for potato and carrot fields, and 4 of them will be for beetroot as well as wheat fields. And of course the other 2 are for our animals. Now obviously I'm not able to count how many crops I'm going to need to plant on all of this grass. I mean, I could technically, I just really don't want to. So instead I have guesstimated a number, and I'm just going to gather that and hope it's enough really. Luckily, behind this waterfall, I have a secret room where inside is something incredibly helpful. It is my micro farm. It's really noisy, but as you can see, works like a dream. I have got enough seeds for a lifetime. My poor little micro farm here has been worked to the bone. Thankfully, this should be enough crops to fill all of the fields. And honestly, if it isn't, I quit. Before we start this absolute mammoth task, it would be kinda cool to know how many crops I'm about to plant. So I can put it in the title, of course. So at the moment, I have hoed a total of 26,601 grass blocks, which is a lot already. I honestly have no idea where I've done all of that hoeing, but I'll make a note of it here and we can check on it again once I'm all done with the planting. Oh boy, okay, off I go. Nearly 24,000 dirt blocks tilled later, as well as an additional 4.5 hours to actually plant all of the crops, we are finished. Only as far as the crop planting is concerned. We of course still have some other things to do. Like, how are we gonna harvest all of these crops, for example? Well, I have just 2 words to tell you. Combine harvester. Now, of course, we're not actually going to be harvesting any of the crops here. In fact, I never want to plant another crop in Minecraft ever again, I don't think. But we're just going to pretend this is how all of the crops are harvested. Does it make sense realistically? Absolutely not. No way. I mean, just look at the shape of some of the fields. There's no way this thing is maneuvering around all of these bends. Now that we've done all of the crop fields, I am thinking that the 2 animal pens just look a little bit bland in comparison. So what I'm thinking, just so we don't have plain grass through and through, we could chuck some bone meal around just to get some tall grass and flowers. And yes, once again, I'm well aware this doesn't make sense realistically. The sheep especially would eat all of the grass down, so it's super flat. But sometimes you just gotta throw realism out the window and do what looks best. So now our animal fields have a little bit more going on rather than just grass and a building or 2. We just have one final piece of the puzzle left to build in order to complete this project, and it is of course what's going to be going here in the center of this mysterious circle that's just been waiting to be built upon for most of the video now. I don't want to jump the gun here, but I think this project may be one of my favorite Minecraft projects I've ever done. As I said at the start of the video, I've been wanting to do something like this for a really long time, and now that we're finished, I honestly wouldn't change a thing. I am extremely happy with the final result. Very quickly, before we wrap up here, I should probably show you the interior of the windmill, because it does in fact have one. It's nothing special, but it's nice and cozy nonetheless. Down here on the ground level is essentially meant to be the shop of sorts. We maybe have some sort of salesman behind here selling cakes. Loaves of bread is what the buttons are meant to be. And other various things that I've tried to make look like food. Just pretend these aren't sea pickles, okay? We do have this winding staircase taking us all the way from the bottom level to the top one, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. The second level, as you can see, is storage. Lots of barrels, crates and chests. Next up, we have the floor where all of the baking takes place, so plenty of furnaces, a few tables, and even this churning device that's actually connected to the windmill outside, which is kind of cool. And then the final level, all the way at the top, is just an open balcony. Usually you'd have some sort of roof on a windmill, but truth be told, I couldn't come up with a design for it. I was absolutely stumped, so I just thought we could have an open balcony to get some glorious views of the surroundings, which I think overall was a pretty good design choice. But there we go, everybody. That's going to do it for today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you ever so much for doing that, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.